What's going on, everybody? It's Matt, aka the Lumberjack Landlord. Super excited to be here with my fellow amigos. You know, it was nice for Mike to get out of the rat race for a week, but very glad he's back. So, Mike, welcome back. How you doing?
Thank you very much.
Rested?
I missed you guys.
Missed you too. It was a different week not having you there. It just was. And Dion, how you doing, my friend?
Howdy, I'm doing great. At least we had Thanksgiving to distract us from Mike being out of our lives for a week.
God. Yeah, that was, thank God, that was a good thing. So guys, this Friday, I actually have an interview that I did with Simon, the Uneducated Economist. It's going to be on his channel. I'm super pumped, super honored that he asked me. And he's just a great patriot. I love how he dissects things. It's really a lot of fun. But he asked me a question that actually stumped me. And it stumped me because I hadn't really truly thought of the answer. And so the answer that you'll see that I give in the interview was truly an ad hoc answer. It was just top of my head, just kind of how I felt about the situation. So the question is this, and I will ask Mike first because he's the one who abandoned us and went on vacation.
Thanks.
So I'll ask Mike first. The question that he asked me was, if I could fix housing, what would I do?
Well, it depends what you mean by fix housing. So when I hear that question, most people think housing affordability.
Sure.
Right. Basically, I think it's back to anybody who wants a house can have a house. I think that's what most people think when they think fix housing. I think we learned in the 2006, 7, 8 crash that not everyone is qualified to own a home. So I actually believe that feel good, want to, kumbaya crap doesn't really work. It leads to a housing crash. Because I do think you have to qualify. It takes time. It's expensive to own a home. So when I hear that, that's where my brain goes to first, because I think that's what most people will think. I actually think you fix housing by doing two things. One is we need to figure out a way to manufacture them cheaper, produce them, whatever you want to call that. There was a time, again, I've been studying real estate for a long time, where housing always got bigger, right? We went from an average 1,100 to 1,250 to 15 to 18 to now I think it's 2,200 square feet. We don't need all that space. It needs to be more affordable, which means cheaper. So I think there's ways we can get that done, whether those be 3D printed homes or container homes or tiny homes. I don't care we need to be able to produce housing cheaper, which, oh, by the way, will allow people to afford them better. Sure. And then second, there are some states or cities where zoning is, I'll call it open, for lack of a better term. And there are states and areas where it's very restrictive. When it costs you like I was going to build a fourplex on a property that I own, and it was zoned for it. So it wasn't like I was breaking things. But when they came back to me and said it would cost $120,000 just to do the paperwork and do some kind of this or that, and it doesn't guarantee approval, I'm like, get out of town. I'll just keep the house there. It's okay. So there's a lot of zoning things. So at the end of the day, I don't think the answer to fix housing is to give everybody a home. Nope. I think the answer is build smaller, build cheaper. And, the places where zoning is inappropriate, you fix zoning. So, I don't think everybody qualifies to be an owner. Agreed. I think that kind of maxes at 68%, which means 32% rent. And renting is not bad. Some people they want to be, nomads, and they want to bounce around. So of people need to be owners. Not everybody wants to be an owner. So I guess that's where my brain goes. I think about it a lot. So the big answer is smaller and cheaper construction.
And zoning. Yep. And Dion?
And zoning, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad when questions come up like this, because especially during the live stream, what really matters to me is that as an investor, what do you keep in your mind? Not what do you have to research, so that when we see a deal, when we see an email come in, we can make a snap decision in 5 to 10 seconds on whether we're going to do a deeper dive or not. So when a question comes up like, how do you fix housing? And it kind of stumps you, that means that's a question you can research so that you would then know what to keep in top of mind. I'm going to cheat. I heard Meet Kevin when he was running for governor give a really good explanation of how you fix housing. And this is going to be a paraphrase and butchered because my memory sucks. And it's been about a year, I think, right? It's been a while.
least you remember
But
who to give credit to.
right, I'm giving it to Meet Kevin, right?
Exactly.
So Mike, you're absolutely right. You got to streamline the permit process, and it shouldn't cost $100,000 for the plans to build a property that's going to provide housing. And second, we need to increase density, remove the zoning that requires single family house, but you got everybody that goes not in my backyard, right? NIMBY. And so California was supposed to come up with everyone can add an ADU. Everywhere is supposed to be zoned now for at least, more than one single family. And then we go, but if you want to add an ADU, we want you to put $16,000 worth of solar panels on the roof, which kills your cash flow, right? So we need to make it less restrictive. So that helps lower the cost to build, like on your point, Mike. And you're absolutely right. Not everybody wants to own. Like my kids at some point will become an investor, but they're two of them are at points in their life where I wouldn't want them to own a house because it would be Bank of Dad fixing everything, right? They're not at the point of owning, but renting is totally fine. They will get to that point. So that's the two things I would look at. Streamline the process, increase density.
I love it. So my answer was zoning. That was my answer. And my second answer was financial education. I think that if we did a much better job in high school and college of teaching kids what a mortgage is, what bills are, balancing a checkbook, the understanding of I want and I need, the understanding of all of those types of things, and really gave people a better understanding of what that was at a more formative age, I think that they come out the other side saying, I want to buy a house. Like I want to own a house. And that's seeing, having the conversation about what's, the average value or the average net worth of an individual who's a renter when they retire is $6,000. And if you own a home, it's almost $250,000. So having that very real and honest conversation with kids, teenagers, high school kids and college kids, and having that conversation with them and saying, this is what you're looking at. You're going to be able to retire at 65 if you own a home in all likelihood and have a better retirement. If you're a renter, that retirement could look pretty rough forever. And I know families that depend on the husband and the wife's Social Security to make the mortgage or to make the rent. What happens? There's a lot of bad things that can happen in that scenario. So, my answer was, I think the best way to fix it, zoning. I said to him, before I spend a dime moving dirt, I spend $35,000 getting the approval to move that ounce of dirt. That makes no sense. And I said, and if you give people density where it makes sense, I'm not saying in a neighborhood of a bunch of $2 million homes, you let somebody build a 40 unit, but you have to also be reasonable. If there's something like that in the neighborhood, there should be no reason to build more of that same thing in the neighborhood. And if you have a neighborhood that's a bunch of single family homes, but there's 2 or 3 that have ADUs, then every single lot in there should get an ADU. And that would put such a change on housing. It would completely change the landscape. And I think it would be so much better for everybody. So I appreciate you guys willing to do that with me, because when he asked that question, I was just kind of like, I'm going to have to think about that, honestly. And my first answer was the financing thing, because I look at a lot of kids and they don't have any idea what a mortgage is. They have no idea. They have no idea that that's the biggest expense that their parents pay every single month. They have no idea, because often their parents are drowning and they don't want to answer that financial question either. Yeah. Mike, what are your thoughts? I know that personal finance is near and dear to your heart. You've got your course that, we contributed to, but talk to me about that.
I think, I've given you both credit, right? Something I didn't do that both of you did. And I think Dion called it the cheat code to wealth, is the right answer. If I had a magic wand, I would, that second semester, your senior year, is just garbage. There's nothing happening, right? I would put in a personal finance class. I would do house hacking. It would be a mandatory class. Just to, talk about credit cards and interest rates and debt to income. All those folks, like they're on the cusp. Like I remember, right? Going to college and I remember it's just, they had all these pretty girls in bikinis giving out Visa cards and, Visa apps. And I mean, just, of course I'm going to go, get one. Right. I remember it vividly on the steps of Santa Clara University. I don't think they do that anymore, but that it was there. Yeah, it needs to happen in high school. It needs to happen right before you're just thrown out to the wolves.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I agree. Good
Yeah.
call.
Final semester of senior year. Like right before you're able to sign the line, which is dotted, you need to be armed with all of this information, because if you want to, what's amazing to me is all the banks do what they do on these credit cards. They put those girls in bikini clad, right, to get them on campus, to get those signatures, or they're going to give you a hat, or they're going to,
a beer cozy, or, whatever.
Exactly. Something fill in blank, right? So all of that stuff can happen. And it's just like, so wait, I just signed here and you're going to give me a credit card? Oh, ouch. Like that could be the worst thing that ever happened. Dion, your thoughts?
So I know the quote of, I would follow the science if the science didn't follow the money. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to butcher what Kiyosaki talks about.
Okay.
Why education won't do what we want it to.
Yeah.
We have a push in Florida with the governor saying, hey, we're going to put an economics class in the high school, right? So we have a push for that. But where does our school system come from? Originally, we were a nation of farmers, and you had enough kids so that when you got old, your kids would take over the farm and you could retire. The factories needed people to come off the farm, so they created pensions. The factories needed factory workers. So they said, they went to the government, the Rockefellers, the Fords, and they said, we'll build schools. We'll make Ford Middle School. We'll build the Rockefeller. They'll do all of these things with this caveat. We want it to run like a factory. We want a 5-day education week because we have a 5-day work week. So we want Monday through Friday, a bell to toll when you start, when you stop, when you take breaks. And we don't want you to teach finances because we need people to have to work.
Right.
We don't want them to understand that as an entrepreneur, you're going to pay the least amount of taxes. You're going, an investment pays less taxes. We don't want them to understand that. We want them to need the job. We want them in debt. We want them to have credit cards. We want them to barely be making it so that they want overtime. If we find a way to change that, the school system getting funding from companies that don't benefit from us creating factory workers, then we might have a society that's more likely to put financial education in school. Until we fix that problem, I don't see it happening on a large scale.
Yeah. So to that point on Rockefeller, it's actually really interesting because I do a little bit of history stuff, and he spent today's equivalent of $1.4 billion to kick off the Board of Education and kind of how they started things in building schools. So suffice to say, he did invest in our country's future, but it was more the future of his company. Because he said, we need workers. And so Dion, to all those points, that's exactly right. Like that's why it was formed the way it was formed. So the concern that we have, certainly all of us are parents, albeit Sam still can't spell mortgage. The issue is that we talk about finances all the time. And I think it's really important. It's something needs to be part of the vocabulary. Sam's been on job sites since he was 3 weeks old. Now he's 5. But yeah, I would just encourage everybody, if you can't teach your money being right if your money isn't right. So check out Mike's course, his Get Your Money Right course. It's well worth the time that you'll invest, understanding your finances, tracking your finances. This is what you're going to have to do to become a landlord, because that's what's going to make you an operator. It doesn't happen automatically. And that's a great foundational piece that folks can get to it. Dion, you had a question?
Well, I had a thought,
Ready?
Which is very rare for me to have an original thought. Usually I parrot meet Kevin or Kiyosaki or Zuber. Like, this is where I get my knowledge from. It's not mine. Nothing I do is unique or special, right? Except I had a thought in this video.
I'm ready.
The shift that could change the financial future of our country. YouTube University. This didn't exist 100 years ago.
Agreed.
22 years ago. Like, this is all new. And so financial education is going to be more and more available to get into people's homes. The fear is fear porn will get more access than actual useful information, but we'll keep trying.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. I think YouTube University does have the capability to change the landscape in relatively short time frame, 5, 6, 7 years. But to your last point, that is absolutely correct. The three of us put out content, again, what we're doing, what we're thinking, experience. We're not fear porn, right? And thus we're smaller, right? There are channels out there that are growing very quickly because all they do is put out fear videos, right? There's My channel, for example, in the last 28 days, 5 days a week, 7, 8 millionaires helping people, grew 750 subs. There are people out there with channels that get 750 new subs off one crazy video. It's not fair, but it's okay. I like our community. Our community does the work. They're doing deals. I don't want people in the parking lot. And if that's the cost of doing the right thing, so be it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that there's going to be anybody that's going to be, saying that they changed their life in the next 5 years from watching those channels. If anything, it's going to be to the negative. I should have bought. I didn't, because you started telling me in 2020 that I shouldn't buy, and kiss that payment goodbye forever. That payment will never be that payment again, ever, and that's sad for me. So Mike, tell everybody where they can find you, sir.
One rental at a time, YouTube, website, everything I do one rental at a time.
The course that I talked about, that's on the site, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the course, get your money right. You got to get out there, get your money right. That is the foundational step to any of this. And again, you're not doing yourselves any favors. You don't have to share at your next dinner party that you took Mike's course. You just need
to. Just so you know, it's $99. So it's not even crazy expensive.
Yeah.
Get your money right course. Crazy.
You can't learn about finances for much cheaper than that. Just the way that it goes. Dion, tell everybody where they can find you, my friend.
Well, since I didn't watch Fear Porn for the last 2 years, and since 2020, I've over doubled the size of my portfolio and 4x'd my cash flow. I'm retired, and you can find me here on YouTube, Dion Talk Financial Freedom, between naps when I'm online.
Naps are awesome.
Shut up, both of you.
It's almost time for second nap.
Yeah, exactly. There is significant nap envy on this side for sure. You guys enjoy your nap time. As I always tell you, we try and create great content for you. Please make sure that you like this video and send it to people. Encourage them to get the financial education. I implore you, it will change the trajectory of your entire family's future. So thank you so much for watching. Guys, thanks so much for coming and hanging out, and we will see you in the next one.
Ciao.